Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Anita Bass Podcast. My name is Anita Bass, your host, and today's episode is proudly brought to you by Awake Tours, the greatest music festival, touring, travel company in the whole entire world. So today we have a wonderful interview with Rachel. We're going to be talking about what it's like to be known as a career woman or man and then to become a parent, while obviously acknowledging the fact that it's one of the most beautiful things to do with your whole entire life, and you love and adore your family and your child, no doubt, but also visiting the concept that a lot of people feel like they lose themselves to the role of mum or dad. In the interview, we say mum all the time just because Rachel is a mum, but this doesn't take away from the fact it could be dad as well. So when you're so career driven, you have that as your identity essentially, and that's what you know yourself to be. And then you go to parenthood and then you kind of feel like you lose yourself within that. I'm getting Rachel on because she's super self-aware to understand that when you're feeling down or feeling a bit off, there is a reason for that and it's okay. And also to not feel guilty for feeling that way because it's completely normal. I feel like a lot of people are living like this and maybe might not even realize that that's what they're going through. And they're like, oh, why aren't I happy that I'm a new parent? And it's okay. It's okay. And everyone goes through it, yeah? It's an identity shift, but it's beautiful. So, yeah, we're going to speak about that today. Let's get Rachel on the phone. So, as promised, I have Rachel on the phone. Rachel, how are you?
How are you?
Good. Alrighty. So, as mentioned in my introduction, we have Rachel on today to talk to us about what it has been like to become a mother and a parent whilst having a past of being a full-time career-driven working woman. So basically, we're going to talk about not wanting to lose yourself purely into the role of mum or dad, but also, of course, knowing that you love and adore your child, but being aware that for yourself to be the best version of yourself, you still need that distinction of you as a person, and you don't want to just mold into being mum, and you also don't want to feel guilty about having those feelings. So today we're going to be speaking about the unspoken parts about becoming a parent, because I feel like 99.9% of people feel this way, and some people may not be self-aware enough to understand why they do. They may be like, oh, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling like run down, I'm feeling like guilty for wanting to go out, I shouldn't go out, I've got a child, blah, blah, blah. But they can't take a step back and be like, well, this makes complete and utter sense. I've kind of like molded into something that I wasn't for the beginning of my whole entire life. So today, we thank Rachel for coming on and being openly honest about her experience and becoming a new mother. And yeah, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so my first question to you is, what is great about being a mother and what joy and happiness does this role bring to you in your life?
Well, look, that's a hard question because there are just so many things. It's hard to pick a few, and I guess it can be quite overwhelming being a new mum, and it's very rare where you kind of sit back and think about that sort of question and, what joy and happiness does my
Yeah.
child bring me and being a mum. And so it's great for me to sit back and reflect on this as well. But I mean, first and foremost, it's a pretty amazing thing to just have this mini version of yourself and your partner that now exist, and they're developing their own little personality. And I guess, one of the best things for me, and like I know my partner can really relate and agree to this, is, you know, the best feelings is you've had a really busy day or you've had a tough day, or, you might be going through a really hard time with something else. And
Yeah.
then you see your baby's smile or you see your baby's laugh, or even just going in after their nap and seeing them awake in their cot staring up at you, like it just makes everything else feel so insignificant.
Oh.
And I think most parents, most first time parents can relate when I say that before having children, you really don't understand or you can't comprehend that you can love someone so much
Mm.
until you have a baby and you all of a sudden realize. Like, I remember, first couple of days in hospital looking at my baby thinking like, I've never loved anything so much before in my life. And it's very overwhelming, but it's happy tears, it is. And that's why I think so many mums, like when they have their baby in hospital and they give birth and they look at their child for the first time, like you cry because it's such a happy moment in your life, and
Yeah.
it's, doing it for the first time, yeah, you might have more children and you might give birth again, but you only do it for the first time once.
Yeah.
And it's just a very humble and overwhelming experience.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it is so crazy, isn't it? I think that when you're younger, it's just like people have babies, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when you actually get older and understand like what it actually is, like the two people they meet, you sleep with each other and then creates this like but it's literally like magic. Like it's
know.
magic. It's like you overlook this thing because it's around you so often, but it's like, what on earth? Like, you don't have to believe in God or anything, but you got to believe in something bigger than us because it's just absolutely bizarre. And yeah.
I feel like people don't really talk about it a lot. Like you might catch up with friends that have babies, and you're around work colleagues that have babies at home being looked after by somebody else, but people don't, you just see from the outside what it's like you really, really have no idea until you're right in the middle of it and you're experiencing it for yourself.
It's so beautiful. Alrighty, so flipping that on its head. So you're a very career-driven woman and always have been. So what has been the hardest thing about becoming a parent in relation to your work life?
Look, I think for me there are two main things. So first, for me, like having to accept that you are no longer working and earning money, and therefore feeling like you're not contributing financially to the family.
Yeah.
I always would pride myself on being able to save money and treat myself occasionally, or live financially independently. And then when becoming the sole carer for my daughter, which meant giving up work, I felt like I would no longer be able to treat myself, and that I would have to justify spending money when, spending your partner's money and not your money. And of course, he's never ever made me feel that way and never would question what I spend money on. But it just made me feel like I couldn't enjoy what I've bought, as I hadn't worked hard and saved the money for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that for me was quite hard in the financial side of things. And yeah, secondly, probably feeling like you have no purpose. And I mean, of course I am caring for my daughter, which brings so much joy and pride and satisfaction, but changing poo nappies, feeding for what feels like the 60th time for the day, settling down for naps, it's not the same as working and contributing to society. And me and my partner have our own business, and it's just not the same as building someone's dream home.
Yeah, no, I feel you completely. And both very like proper things to be thinking about. And that's, as you were speaking, I'm so glad I'm having you on, because we know so many people like having babies and stuff, and I know they were working women and that, and then you are completely relatable. Like it's completely relatable and completely like correct. But then also knowing that like being a mum is harder, I feel like, than any full-time job ever. Like obviously I'm not a mum, but I've been around them. But like, yeah, like some people sometimes say arrogant things like, oh, you're stay-at-home mum, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what do you mean? Do you understand that is so much harder than any full-time job ever?
Yeah.
And then there's also,
and I hate the word, oh, your job is a mum. Like when people say, oh, what do you do for work? And you say, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mum, and you kind of feel the judgment, like, oh, you don't work, you're just a mum.
Which is so stupid.
But there's so much else that comes with it. Like you're not just a mum. And yeah, there's, until having a child, it's something that I never really even thought about. Like I couldn't even comprehend it really.
Yeah. And as you say, like it's the most rewarding job, but it's so thankless. And we'll talk about this later as well. But it's like your child's not like, oh, thank you. And you're not like ticking things off. And then also like the social side, you're not around people or like adults all the time. And it's like different conversation. And then you feel like maybe a bit alienated from your friends because you're living a different life. And like just the little things that people get from work as well, which maybe they don't realize. Say just a matter of having a list of tasks to do that like your boss or yourself say, do this week, and you tick it off. Like that brings a sense of satisfaction and does something to your psyche, and that you don't really understand. And when you're a mother, it just never ends. Like the jobs never end and no one's saying like, good job, you've done well, blah, blah, blah. And like your baby's not saying thank you. So you feel like you're so exhausted and done so much, but it's like, okay, let's do it again.
Yeah, 100%. Like, when I'm doing anything, like all I'm thinking about in the back of my mind is like, there's a sink full of dishes, or there's like 5 loads of washing I need to do, or there's washing in a washing basket that's been sitting there for 3 days that hasn't been folded. There's always stuff that needs to be done. And I'm one of those kinds of people where, before having a baby, like I felt like my life was so organized and together. Like,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the week, I had, all the food ready of, what we were going to have for dinner. I had all the washing was done ready for the week. All the cleaning was done. Like, I didn't have people come over and think, oh shit, the house is dirty. Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
one of those things that, when those first couple of weeks, and, my friends that had babies would say to me, don't even worry about the washing that needs to be done. Don't worry about the house being dirty. Just spend time with your baby. And in my mind, I'm like, oh no, but I can't relax knowing that I need that stuff to do. And I guess it's taken me now like quite a few months to kind of really understand and realize what that meant. And now, I've got friends that are having babies, and I'm now giving that same advice, because you can't have that time again with your kids. You can't, go back and say, I wish I didn't do all that cleaning, and,
Yeah.
oh, I wish I, did that at later times and just spent that time with my children. So, yeah, it definitely is a juggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure, so many mums feel the same.
Yeah. And what has been the hardest thing about becoming a parent, sorry, in relation to your personal life, like you personally, not exactly just work?
Look, this is actually a really tough question for me, because I have been struggling with this a lot
Yeah.
the last couple of months. Before becoming a mum, like, I heard a lot about postnatal depression and people feeling like they lose themselves as a person. And I never really knew what that meant. Like, I'm not one that's I'm not a spiritual person. I don't meditate, even though, I have tried at times in my life.
Yeah.
But it's not really for me. And when people would say, you lose yourself as a person, I always kind of thought, oh, like, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
how hard is it? How hard can it be? But since having Sienna, like, I really understand what people meant by that, because becoming a mum for the first time is one of the biggest adjustments in your life you'll ever have to make. You all of a sudden have this little human that relies on you for absolutely everything. And you feel like this human just hangs off you 24/7, and you no longer can do the things as easily as you used to. Just to go get my nails done after having a baby took so much preparation and planning for someone to, feed her and look after her for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And even then, you worry if are they okay? Are they crying for endless hours? Like, but you also know you have to switch off, and you do need to go and do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And then, on the other hand, like, every time you see or talk to someone, they go straight to the baby before you. They always ask about the baby. How is she feeding? How is she sleeping? Not many people actually stop and ask, like,
How are
how
you
are you
doing?
going? Like, how are you feeling? How are you coping? Like, or how can I help you? And you suddenly just feel like you don't exist, and your whole life just becomes about your baby and nothing else. And I mean, in
Yeah.
the early days, like, it's exciting, because you do have this beautiful baby, and you want to show the baby off. You want people to come visit you. You want all of that. But then after a while, when it starts to catch up with you, and you think you're just so drained and overwhelmed and exhausted, and like, I
Yeah.
shut myself off from people. Like, I didn't want to go and visit people, because the feeling of walking into a room and everybody goes straight to the baby and doesn't even say hello to you
Yeah.
at
And you're the one
all,
doing all
or,
the work as well.
yeah. And it's
Someone
just
help me.
it made me so upset. And I didn't know how to handle those situations, so I just kind of avoided them
Yeah.
completely. So that personally, having a baby, that was probably one of the hardest things. And before I had a baby, I had one of my friends, jokingly say, oh, when you have a baby, you have to get used to, um, you know, everyone asking about your baby, and you don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh,
What's that
why is that
even
so
mean?
bad?
Yeah.
Like, like why is that so bad? Like, you've got this beautiful child, you should be happy.
Yeah.
But like I get it now. Like, I get that, we aren't, it's not just about our baby. Like, we still exist.
Yeah.
And we still need to have those conversations with our friends that are not about babies and not about her, and it's about, us as people too.
Yeah. And what you're
So
doing.
yeah, and it look, hopefully, and people have said, it gets better as years go on, and they get older and they're not a newborn baby anymore. The novelty wears off.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it'll get easier because I'll learn as well, how to communicate that with people and have those conversations when, I'm feeling like that. But in the beginning, it's just a massive learning curve.
It's so different as well, isn't it? I think that's a really, really tricky one, because I would feel that exact same way and just hidden and just like you're the one being worked to the bone. You're like, hello. And then people are like, oh, baby. And you're like, yep, cool. Like, I've known you for 20 years. Like, how am I doing? But also it's like from the friend's point of view and the family, like they're kind of like, you don't even think about it. Like, it's something that I think I've heard you talk about it before. And then that kind of clicked something in my mind. I was like, I've never actually really thought of that. And I've probably indirectly been quite rude to like my friends and family who have been pregnant just by not kind of thinking. You just think like, oh, they've got the baby. Oh, I'm so excited to see her. I want to let them know that I'm excited the baby's here. And yeah, you may even think, oh, I'm giving her some time, but you ignore them unintentionally in a way as well. But yeah, as you
Yeah.
said, to communicate it is the big thing, but also you probably don't feel like you had the right to communicate, or in your mind it would be something which would seem so small and insignificant, but in like
Correct.
reality it's big. Like, you're like, oh, I feel really stupid putting my hand up like, oh, do you guys want to ask me how I'm doing? It's like
Yeah.
come on, but really it's a big thing. Like,
Yeah, you're 100% right. And like, when I started feeling like this, it really made me step back and, you know, apologize to my friends, because I was the same. I thought to myself, like, did I make my friends feel like this when they had babies? Like, because I love children, I'd love to
yeah,
go and visit my friends and see their babies. And, I probably did say things like, when I'd catch up with a friend for coffee and they didn't bring their baby, I probably did say, oh, where's such and such, or why didn't you bring them, and
yeah,
it didn't even occur to me that they wanted a coffee
no
without their
way.
baby there, and they just wanted to have an adult conversation. And
Yeah,
it really did make me think, like, shit, I hope I didn't offend any of my friends, or I hope I didn't make them feel the way that I'm feeling. And like you said, it might feel like something small and insignificant, but when you're already so emotional,
yeah,
and drained as well, like, when it keeps happening, you find that it's the little things that just
trigger
build
you.
up and build up and build up and feel like they get worse and worse. And I mean, that's where I've learned as well to just communicate, because sometimes you do say it out loud and you do talk to a friend about it or your partner about it, and after having that discussion, even though nothing's changed, you feel better because you've kind
Yeah,
of said it out loud. And you might think, oh, okay, it's not as bad as what I was thinking in my head and I was making it out to be. Or just having that conversation with someone, they might be able to help you and give you advice as to what you should do about it and how, to feel better about the situation.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
No,
not
it's a hard
easy.
one. But yeah, even just talking about it helps to diffuse it and take the edge off as well. If not, it's one of those things which one day you just scream and pop and they're like, that wasn't even a big deal. You're like, it's not just this, it's everything. Like, it's
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. Yeah.
So why do you think we feel this guilt, being a mother or a father, to want more for ourselves in our lives, but while us being a parent as well? I'm not sure if everyone
Um,
feels the guilt. Maybe I'm generalizing, but if I put myself in the position and people I've spoken to, I feel like, yeah, well, you feel guilty, like, oh, I want to go out, I want to do this in my career, but you're a mum, you should
yeah.
do this, you shouldn't wear this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh,
Well, I think like I think everyone at some point probably does feel like that. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I think because we don't want to define ourselves as just being a mum or just being a dad. Like, we want to be a friend, we still want to be a partner, we still want to be a colleague, we still want to have conversations that don't revolve around babies. And I want to have a life outside of being a mum as well. And I still want my friends to invite me out even though I have a baby. I still want to be working and contributing to society. And I think as a mum and as a dad, we possibly and probably most likely feel guilty for wanting this, because for wanting something other than just being their mum or their dad, because that's the commitment we made when we decided to have a child together and becoming a mum and a dad, to be the carer, to be the feeder, to be the security for your baby. So when you want to go and do something, like, you do think to yourself, like, is it so wrong for me to want to go and spend an hour on my own, or to drink a coffee before it goes cold? You just want that hour to yourself where you don't have to constantly fulfill the needs of a child. And we need it, just to, I guess, be able to be the best parent for that child. We need to be able to switch off sometimes. And being the sole carer for a child, it's it is a 24/7 job. You don't get to take breaks. So I think we do feel this guilt, but we shouldn't feel this guilt, because everyone is entitled to do so. When you have a full-time job, you're entitled to tea breaks and a lunch break, and you can go home at the end of each day. So like, I don't think we do, I guess, tend to make ourselves feel guilty for it, but we shouldn't. But that's I guess being a parent, though. Like, you just want the best for your child. And I all of a sudden see and feel what our parents felt having children, and understand what it was like, and the commitment they gave to being a parent. But I mean, it's one thing now, like, I always try and offer my help to my friends with children, when they need it, for just for some time to themselves, and to not have to feel guilty, and to not feel guilty for asking, just that people actually offer. And sometimes it's just the offer that it counts. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might not have to accept the help, but it's the offer. And
it's necessary. It's so necessary. Like, as me personally, I spend so much time alone. I couldn't even imagine. Like, I would need, like, it's necessary. And this will branch into our next question as well. But, like, based on everything you've just said, it's also when people are like, oh, you shouldn't go out, you should feel guilty, blah, blah, blah. It's also a very old school way of thinking, I feel, as well. Like, back in the day when they used to get married and have kids when they're like 18, 19, there was like no internet, no anything, no extra, whatever. And it was like, you go to work down the road and you have work. And when work's done, you switch off, no one can call you, nothing, the husband's back. And the woman, you don't have a phone, you don't have internet, you don't have anything. So your job and jobs would literally just, you would be able to look after the kids, and that would be your full-time job. And although it was hard then, there weren't as many distractions, whereas right now you're trying to juggle, like, your friends, all the social media, everyone trying to get in contact with you. Like, your husband's working, when he comes home he's still working because he's got his phone, his laptop, he's asking for your opinion, you're all these other things. Like, it's such a bigger world and everything like that now as well. So if people are like, you should just be a mum, you shouldn't act like this, shouldn't do this, it's like, it's a very, very old school way of thinking, I think. Like, you still are 100%. A person.
Yeah, definitely. I think things have come a long way, and things have changed a lot, over the years, around what it entails to be a parent and the sole carer for a child. And you're right. I mean, there is so much more. There's, I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. Like, our lives, we live such more lavish lifestyles now. We go out for lunches, we go out for dinners, and like I said to my mum, I said, how did people do it with 5, 6, 7 children back in the day? Like, how did they do it? And it's like, people didn't go on holidays, they didn't go out for dinners. Like, for a very, very special occasion, you'd go out for dinner, but other than that, you didn't. Like, the husband would go to work, they'd come home, mum would stay at home with the kids, you'd prepare the dinner for that night. you do all the cooking and the cleaning and everything at home, and that's all. Like,
Yeah.
you weren't trying to catch up with 27 different people that all live half an hour from you,
Yeah.
and keeping those connections and relationships, and trying to make your family happy that lives on the other side of Perth, and then you've got family on the south side of you and the north side of you, and then you're trying to might be trying to get back into work, or you might be trying to do some exercise and be healthy, and there's just so much. I feel like there's so much more now with the way we live our lifestyle, which contribute to this whole juggling act of being a parent and wanting to be everything else as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to take the wins with the losses. You can't have everything and you can't do everything, because there's only so many hours in the day. But I guess it's just a matter of stepping back and looking at it and thinking, it's okay that I didn't get to, prepare dinner for tonight. We will get takeout. Or it's okay that I didn't get to catch up with my friend. We'll catch up another time. Do you know what I mean? And just taking that pressure off yourself, because the more pressure that we constantly keep putting on ourselves, you get to breaking point, because you can't do it all.
No, you can't. And it's mad, isn't it? I feel like back in the day, you kind of didn't know any different either. This is like a side conversation, I guess. But like, I don't know if the pressure of not even if it's a pressure, not even if you directly do think social media, but like, I assume when you were a stay-at-home mum before, you just were at home, and I imagine it's peaceful in the garden and the sun shining, and like, obviously it was hard, but you were doing everything you were doing, and you didn't know what was going on in the outside of the world, so you just knew,
Correct.
I'm a mother and this is what I'm doing and my babies are fine, blah, blah, blah. And you also didn't have the anxiety that like just having notifications on your phone or picking it up 100 times a day creates, but like, you were just in the bubble and that was it, and there was no external pressure to want to do more. Even you didn't even know, like, you wouldn't have a fucking clue. It's when your husband was coming home, and maybe you knew where your friend lived down the road if you could remember it or memorize it off a map. But it's like, now I feel like you have your phone in your hand, and it's like you're looking at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You see your friend's got a baby. You see that friend's in Bali. You see that friend is working online. Your friend's had a kid, but now there are 3 businesses. They're posting all the success stories and shit. And like, I feel like that would create so much fucking stress for me personally. And like, even if I wasn't like, I'm comparing myself, I was. And even if I was happy as being a mother, I would see my friends who weren't mothers doing things and be like, oh, I want that. And then you'd see people doing this and be like, oh, I want that. Whereas back then it would be like, I would be so ignorantly bliss in my own world because I wouldn't even have a clue what anyone else is doing. I feel like that would hurt me.
Oh, 100%. And that's a whole, another conversation in
Yeah.
itself, because there's just so much yeah, I mean, it's the world we live in now. Like, it's kind of sad to say that, and to think what our children are going to be going through when they're older with social media. But you hit the nail on the head. Like, we didn't back then, we didn't know what everybody else was doing. What would happen was we'd organize a catch up with friends and family like in a month's time, and we'd talk about all the wonderful things we've been doing, or talk about our losses, or our we'd grieve, and we'd have those conversations with people about what we've been up to for the last 4 weeks, and what we've been doing, and what we've got planned, where if we are going on a holiday, or what we're working on as a family.
Yeah.
Whereas now you don't need to. You just jump online and you can see what someone's doing right now. And it becomes that like, you start to compare yourself with somebody else and think, well, they're having a great time. I'm sitting at home doing chores and looking after my baby. Like, I should be out having a coffee.
Yeah.
I should be spending time at the beach, or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has this need to document their life now.
Yeah.
And you're not living in the moment, and just, I guess, taking it day by day, and experience everything that's in front of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole other story. We could talk about that forever.
Oh, I know. No, I agree. No, definitely. So what are some of the things that you've done or you find necessary to help you fill your cup to make you a better person and parent for yourself? Like, whether it is, like setting boundaries, or being like, okay, now I know I have to do this at this time, or have my hours to myself to make me feel better, because it will help in the long run.
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost for me, it is making sure that I catch up on sleep, because
Mm.
I am the most horrible person when I haven't had enough sleep. I feel sorry for my partner, but I can't function. Like, I need to catch up on sleep. And I mean, before being a mum and having a baby, like, my friends would say, oh yeah, we wake up twice during the night, like blah, blah, blah. And I think, oh yeah, like, I could do that, and you sleep 8 hours and you're waking up twice. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And, I didn't realize, when the baby wakes up, you might spend half an hour feeding them, and then you change the nappy, and then they're awake and alert, and then you've got to try and settle them back down to sleep. You might be awake for 45 minutes to an hour, and then
Yeah.
because you're so awake doing these tasks, then,
Yeah.
like, for me, I can't then go back to sleep. Like, I get in this state of mind where I'm so tired, and I feel like I could sleep for days, but I lay there after my baby's gone back to sleep. It's like, 3 o'clock in the morning. I
Mm.
lay there and I'm thinking about stupid, pointless shit.
Yeah.
And I just lay there and I'm like, I know I need to go back to sleep. And, I jump on my phone, and my partner sees me and he's like, try, go back to
Don't you
sleep.
get?
Like, get off your phone. And I'm like, oh, but I've been laying here for half an hour.
Yeah.
So, and then when I wake up in the morning and it's like, okay, it's time to start the day, I'm so grumpy. Like, the littlest things
Naturally.
piss me off, and yeah, like, I feel horrible. But yeah, that for me, I mean, that's important. And, a lot of people will say, oh, you sleep when the baby sleeps and whatnot, and it's like, well,
It's
then I
not that
don't get
easy.
other shit done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we do need to have a nap when we can, here and there. And, it might not be having a nap, it might just be an hour to relax and not think about anything else, just to watch some TV, or, you know, call a friend and just, do nothing for 1 hour. But
Yeah.
I need that recharge time for me to be able to get on with the day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, another thing for me, I think having quality family time is probably, like, right at the top of the list for me.
Yeah.
Just to spend that time together and reflect on, how far we've come, and talk about things that we want to achieve as a family, and, things that might not be working, and, should we try this instead of this, or, what can we do for each other to help each other out,
Yeah.
to be better, and I guess enjoy life, because,
Mm.
there's no point doing it if we're not enjoying it.
You don't forget to have fun.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, another thing for me, like, working for the business. I mean, me and my partner, we have our own business, and working on that makes me feel accomplished and motivated, and I feel like I'm contributing a little bit. And, it might only be a couple of hours here and there at the moment while our baby is still so young,
Mm.
but having that time to do something and achieve something for us as a family,
Yeah.
um, definitely, makes me feel better, and motivated to do other things as well. And then, so important, self-care time, whether it be, getting a massage, going for a run, going for a coffee with a friend, or just spending time with people I love.
Yeah.
That time, that self-care time, is important. It might even just be having a bath, and relaxing at night time before you go to bed. Like, that's important for me as well, just to recharge and switch off.
Yeah. And how's it been, I guess, with your partner getting to spend time? Is it at a point where you're like, we have to spend time together? So from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. we will, otherwise, like, we won't? Or how's that been, trying to navigate that? Because I could imagine after all these things you've mentioned, you're like, fuck, now I also have to, like, we're in a relationship, we still have to work on this. Like, it's just so much going on.
Oh, you're
How do you
constantly
navigate that?
working. Well, you're constantly working on stuff, and that's what a relationship is about. It's
Yeah.
open communication, constantly working on each other and together as a family. But in the beginning, like, it's not really something you think about, because you're so busy and you're so overwhelmed, and the child definitely does come first, and
Yeah.
you do put your relationship on the back burner. But, it's so necessary, to have that time for each other and to spend that time with each other. And, I'm very fortunate that, my partner feels the same, and wants to make that same effort. So,
Mm.
I remember, he asked his mum to come and look after Sienna so we could just go and have a couple of drinks, just the two of us. And you need that time to reconnect, because, after having a baby and feeling like, you don't even really get to talk to each other, or you don't get that time you used to spend with each other. And
Yeah.
in the early days, when they didn't really have set sleeping times, they kind of just sleep when they want to sleep and feed on demand and so forth.
Mm.
You couldn't plan time together. You just kind of have to take it when it comes.
Yeah.
But then, you're so tired. And Steve, still, even for now, for me, it gets to that time of the night where, Sienna has a bath, goes to bed, and then, we eat dinner. And I sit down and, he says, "Oh, do you want to watch a movie together?" Or, "Do you want to watch a series?" And I look at him and I say, "You know what? I'm so tired. Like, I need to just go to sleep." And I'm now, like, I used to go, "Yeah, let's watch a movie," but because sleep is so important to me, and I know,
Definitely.
I'm gonna have to get up to the baby during the night and feed, and
Yeah.
I feel the need that, okay, baby's asleep now. Like, I'm actually tired, so I do need to go to sleep now rather
Yeah.
than stay up. So 100%, it's important for us, and we do try and make an effort to have time, just the two of us. And it's my birthday this week, and he's organized to go out for dinner, so that's the
Oh,
time, where we get the baby looked after, and we just go and spend that time, just the two of us, because you need to still be identified, as a couple,
yeah.
and not just as mum and dad.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And it's so good that you guys, are self-aware, as I said. And main reason why I wanted to get you on as well is it's like you can look at yourself and your situation as an outsider, as if you're looking on and being like, okay, I'm grumpy. Of course I'm grumpy, and maybe I'll still do the things, but at least I'm aware to know, like, it's not because I hate my partner. It's not because we want to break up. It's because I haven't done these things or ticked it off to look after myself. So, okay. So it's so beautiful that
Correct.
you have a relationship where you're allowed to do that and both openly communicate, or lose your mind and be like, okay, I know you're not that crazy person, but you've
Yeah,
slept for all of
yeah.
45 seconds and you have a job and you got all these things and you haven't seen your friends and blah, 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 blah. You probably forgot to have a
Yeah.
shower in 4 days. I'm like, I understand. So you have your time. Whereas I know I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine people, and I think about my parents, like my dad would just be so bad to my mother, and now I look back, I'm like, how did she not just like leave? But the types of relationships where they still put you down, still expect everything, like don't cut you any slack. So it's so beautiful, this new age relationships that people are actually aware
Oh,
and self-aware through it.
oh, definitely. And I think it's becoming more of a thing now where, mum and dad do play more of an even role in parenting the
Yeah,
children. And, I know even a lot of my friends where their partners work full time away from the house, they've got a bit of a routine where, okay, dad comes home and dad does bath time, feed time, and then bedtime, because, they haven't seen their children all day. And that takes the pressure off mum at night time to just, sit back and
that's cool.
relax, or cook dinner, or do something else that needs to be done that you haven't had time for. And there is definitely more of a sharing parental role nowadays, and it's more common. And it's back in the day it was not frowned upon, but it just wasn't how things were done. Mum
Yeah,
stayed at home, looked after the kids, and didn't have a career. And dad was the one that was out working and making the money. And it's more socially on, even to flip it completely, and where mum's out working, having a career, and dad's being the stay-at-home dad and doing all of that stuff. And it's more normalized now. And
yeah,
it's really nice to see that we can share that role, and you can work and you can also be a parent. You can do both.
yeah. Necessary, so necessary. You don't have to give up your life to do it. Like, yeah. And we've talked about it anyway, but yeah, I was going to speak to you, but we have speaked on this already. Touching on, how people say it's selfish and like your baby should always come first. Like, of course, when it comes to protection and feeding, that is true, but I completely disagree with the fact that you need to, put your whole entire life and everything on the back burner. And that is so necessary for you to be a good version of yourself, for your child, for your partner, and to feel alive. Because, like, how else are you going to bring your best foot forward or even be able to function as a human if you're not doing things for yourself? Which,
Yeah, for
again,
sure.
your self-awareness around that is amazing.
Oh,
Alrighty.
thanks.
So we all judge ourselves, and I feel like you have probably judged yourself a bit too for having these thoughts. So I'll flip the question, and I'd like to know, what would be your advice to a new mother who has always been known for her career and drive, and now feels like all that she is mum. And I say mum just because I'm speaking to you. You're a mum. This is dad as well. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, it's definitely it's that you can do both. I mean, you don't have to just be a mum or a dad. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hard to find the time between, the 65 loads of washing, cleaning, and the cooking and the grocery shopping, and, constantly feeling like you have to entertain your children.
Mm.
And, all I feel like I do at the moment is pump and wash and sterilize bottles all day. Like I said to my partner, I said, I feel like all I'm doing is washing and cleaning bottles. But yeah, and I mean, not everyone has the luxury of having a babysitter or a partner that can take turns in parenting and working. But I know single moms, and I know FIFO moms, and I know mums with partners who work full time who have babies, and they study or they work from home as well. And it's not an expectation, and there is definitely nothing wrong with mums who just want to be a mum. Everyone is different. Everyone is on a different path, and one of the main reasons I got into the job that I'm in now is the flexibility and being able to work from home, which would make it easier to have children and be able to work throughout the day when they're sleeping. But my advice is that you need to have some sort of routine if you do want to do the mum and work thing. You need to, well, you don't need to, but to make it easier, just have certain days where you get all the so-called chores done, and then mornings where you plan out and get everything ready for dinner, or you have one day where you meal prep and get everything ready for the week of dinners, so that you can focus on the work that you're doing when your baby has gone down for sleep. And that's if they actually go to sleep and stay asleep. And then you feel a bit more accomplished knowing that you don't need to do any washing or cleaning, or that dinner has to be organized. And you can get bits of work done here and there, because you feel like you have a little bit of a routine. And if you get all the washing done on the weekend, for example, okay, the whole week you don't have to worry about that again until next weekend. So having a routine definitely helps. And not everyone is a routine person. I used to be a massive routine person. Like I felt like I was so organized, and my partner is the complete opposite to that. He is the most spontaneous person. Yeah, we'll be sitting there and he'll go, oh, such and such wants to go out for lunch, and it's like 12 o'clock and we're like, okay.
Tell me beforehand.
And yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I love spontaneity, and I love going out and doing new things and being busy and being with people. But then I need to later on go, okay, babe, I need to just go home and get some stuff done at home, because that for me makes me feel better knowing it's done, so then I can get some work done and look after the baby. And I think, to add on to this, I think it's okay to change your mind before having children. Like, I always thought that I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mum, and I didn't want to stop working and be at home all day every day with the babies. But since having my baby, I felt this weird attachment to her, and leaving her with other people so that I can work or do something baby free has been far from easy for me. I've had this sudden realization that, I don't want someone else to raise my children, and that I don't want someone else to teach them to eat food for the first time, or to be there when they laugh or roll over the first time. I don't want to miss out on these young years while they're learning so much and becoming their own selves. But I am working on this myself, because I've acknowledged that I do need to start leaving her with other people for short periods of time, and just slowly building that time up so that I can do other things that I love, and I can get back into work, so I don't go insane. And, I've always enjoyed working, and I always thought that, I would go straight back to work after having a baby. And I think it's okay if you do change your mind and you decide, well, you know what, actually, I do just want to stay home with my children. I don't want to go back to work. And of course, that's if, financially you're
Yeah.
able to do so. But you don't have to, I guess, keep this persona that, you are this person, and, you can't be with your child because you've,
You've said
decided you
this
want to
thing.
go back to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I guess it's not just about how people see you as a person, it's about doing what you feel is right for yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I need to work on leaving Sienna with other people, and, spending some time without her to get some work done. And, I'd always say, oh no, it's okay, like, she doesn't need to be looked after, I'll just work when she goes to sleep.
Mm.
But how much work you actually get done is a different
Yeah.
story. So yeah, just myself, and guess growing on that, and working on that, it's something that I've acknowledged, and I definitely need to work on that, just to, I guess, have a bit more sanity and get back into my work for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think over the next couple of weeks it's going to be hard for me, but I will, start accepting a little bit more help, looking after her, and getting back into the business.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Which it would be hard to do as well. But can I just say, you guys have done such a good job, and you have in transitioning to motherhood as well. Like, I think normally people are like, oh, we're not going to go out, we're not going to do this, blah blah blah. But I really admire how you have like not stopped your life and not been like when you were when we're at Christy's birthday, and then you're like, oh, I just went and had the baby, and then in 3 days time you were over here, and then you came to Jess's birthday, and then you're both very adamant, you're like, oh, it's not going to stop our life, which is such a beautiful way to be, because then that helps take the pressure and anxiety off becoming a parent. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm a mum and this is my job now and this is all I can do, and then they don't go out or anything. But yeah, you guys, I feel like, have really kept a great balance, or at least it appears from an onlooker who's not in
Yeah.
your sleep
Well,
deprived
look,
home. You guys are
yeah.
aware of, you don't want to lose yourself in it.
100%. And look, I have my partner to thank for that, because, I wouldn't say I'm a complete introvert, but I do love to spend time at home.
Yeah.
And, it's been my partner who is, the socialite, and
Forcing
wants to
you
go
out.
out and do stuff. And,
Yeah.
we both have compromised in that respect, because I feel like he has definitely pulled back a little bit, and,
Mm.
he does spend more time at home, and he enjoys spending more time at home with me and the baby, and wants to just relax a little bit more. And but we, on the other hand, it's very important for him to still maintain his friendships. And, I think from an outsider's perspective, before we had kids, he had a lot of friends that had kids, and kind of it looked like they lost themselves a little bit, and
Yeah.
they didn't keep up with their friends, and they wouldn't go out, and they pretty much just were at home all the time. And to go out and see friends was, it was a really hard task.
Yeah.
And he didn't want that to become his life when having a child. I mean,
Mm.
obviously there are compromises that are made when you have children, because the children do come first. But, me growing up as a child in the country, us kids, we went everywhere with our parents. Our parents didn't stop socializing. We went out to
Yeah.
barbecues. If it was late at night and we were tired, like, it was too bad, just up, you fall
You
asleep on the
gotta,
floor, or,
yeah.
push two chairs together and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So for us, like, I think I can see where parents find it hard, because you fall into a little bit of a hole, and you do what makes you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and you don't really put yourself out there. If the baby cries in the car, all of a sudden you're scared to put the baby in the car, and you never want to leave and put
Yeah.
the baby in the car seat. Or, you're out and about and the baby cries, and, that, gives you anxiety. You don't want people to see your baby upset, or you don't want to be in that situation where you don't know what's wrong with your baby, and, everyone else is having a good time.
Yeah.
So I can see where people choose the easy option, and they don't go out and see friends, and they just, if people want to catch up with them, they're like, oh, well, can you come to my house?
Mm.
But it's mentally, like, it's also not good for the parents, because you
Yeah.
need to go out. We try and make a point of walking our dog every day. She's Kelpie, she needs exercise, but, we try and go out, down to the park or to the beach, and, we all go. Sienna comes with us, she goes in the pram. If it's nap time, she has a nap in her pram. If it's not, and she doesn't sleep, like, that's fine, okay. she can catch up on sleep later.
Mm.
And it's all about the compromise, like we still have friends that have birthdays, we still have engagement parties, we still have weddings, and we still need to have our time with our friends as well. And I guess we're so fortunate that our friends are so welcoming of us and our baby. And, there's never a time where we're not welcome because we're
Because
going to
of
bring
it,
the baby.
yeah,
And look, there's a
of
time and a
course.
place for a baby. I agree. You don't want to be in like a
Yeah, you're not
really
taking it to a
loud
rave. No, yeah, exactly.
yeah, with
Which
the
I've seen.
baby.
I've seen someone take a baby
Um,
to a bush stuff, which is not
oh,
probably the place.
wow, wow. But yeah, and look, there is a time and a place, and but our friends are, we're all at that age now where we do enjoy having a barbecue at each other's house, and having a few drinks at home, or going out for dinner and not necessarily going out
Yeah.
afterwards. And all of our friends are so helpful when it comes to Sienna. I feel so relaxed being around our friends, because I have no doubt that, if I need time, half an hour to just sit there and, I want to have a glass of wine, I know we have so many friends in our group that will just take her, and if she needs to sleep, they'll put her to sleep. If she needs to be fed, they will feed her, like without even questioning. Do you know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
takes so much pressure off of us. So we don't ever question whether we can or can't do anything because we have a baby.
Mm.
There are times where we're like, okay, it's best we leave her home and get her babysat, just so we can relax and,
Yeah.
not have to worry about her. But yeah, I think to just keep sane and, remain the same as you were before, you need to push yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yes, it might be hard, but if you never do it, your baby doesn't get used to it either. And that's definitely what we have learned as well. Sienna's used to being out and about. She's used to being passed around from person to person. And, that will help her in the long run, because she won't be that clingy child. Well, I hope
Yeah.
not, fingers crossed.
She's used to other
she
people. Yeah.
Yeah, she's used to other people. She's used to being around noise. She's a good sleeper when we're out and about. Do you know what I mean? Because she doesn't know any different.
Mm.
She hasn't had this whole, she can only sleep in her cot. She
Yeah.
can't sleep in a pram, or, she can't sleep at somebody else's house. So I think it's important to try early days to try those things. And yeah, it might be hard, and you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But if you never do it, it will never get easier. But
Yeah.
it does get easier. It really does.
Oh, good. And and it can only get easier. As a side note, and I think you mentioned before, being a mum to me, like when they cry, you don't know what it is. Like, how has that
Oh,
been for you? Because it would be like there's no manual, there's no nothing. Like I'm like I know nothing, and most of the mums are like we knew nothing. Like no one teaches you this, and I feel like it would cry.
exactly.
One time it's something, one
Exactly.
time it's something. I feel like I'd be like, what do you want? Like what do you want? And I remember, yeah, my sister was having twins, and I'd be like, oh, come to the shop with me. And then she was like, I can't just come to the shop with you. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like,
Yeah.
that's a whole task. You wouldn't need to tell me before. Like, I need to get all this stuff. Like, it's a lot easier if, like, we can drive together in the car and you just pop out. Because if not, like, a whole new world. And then one would cry, one the other. And I'd be like, what do they want? And she'd be like, I don't know. And then she would be like, oh, I'm so, like, angry and crazy all the time. I'm like, I've been here for half an hour and I'm angry and crazy. Like, this is such a
Yeah.
thankless job. So, yeah, the crying,
God,
that's funny.
I can't imagine what it would be like with twins, honestly. I mean, look, we don't even have more than one child yet, but just having the one. I mean, there are times like, it gets to the time of day and they cry, and you go, okay, you look at the time and you go, okay, well, they're tired, then they need to sleep. She's crying because she's tired. That's what babies do. Or, she's just woken up and, she's crying, and it's like, okay, well, she's ready for a feed. She's hungry.
Yeah.
But there are other times when they cry and you literally just, you have no idea why they're crying. Like you don't know. And I think back in the day, we parent, and talking to my mum about it a lot lately, being a parent, you kind of just went with the flow. Like they
Mm.
cry, you just try all these different things, like until you figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah.
now there's fuck, I wish there was a manual on how to look after a baby, but now it's like there's so many different resources out there. There's books on sleeping, there's programs on how to introduce food to your baby. There's all these
Mm.
things about allergens and how you should go about introducing nuts and soy and eggs and fish.
Yeah.
And there's all these Instagram pages on all these different medical conditions and all these things to look out for your baby. Like, there's such an overwhelming amount of information. And look, not all of it is scientific information. It's someone's opinion.
Yeah. Still.
And that's the hardest thing sometimes, because you're like, okay, well, I read this somewhere that this is the reason why my baby is like this. But it's just someone's opinion on that. There's no
Concrete.
there's no
Yeah.
there's no one answer. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing now in our society, is because there is an abundance of information and a lot of people that have an opinion on how things should be done.
Yeah.
So, just following your motherly instinct and doing what you feel is necessary is almost kind of frowned upon sometimes, because, oh, you're introducing food and your baby's only 4.5 months old. Like, what are you doing? They're not supposed to eat until they're 6 months old. It's just little things like that. Like, it does make it hard. And, sometimes I wish they could speak for themselves. I know, like, sometimes she'll be crying and my partner will say, "What's wrong with her?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Ask her."
Yeah.
I
Your guess
don't
is as good as
know.
mine.
I wish I knew why she was crying. But yeah, my God, it's not easy. And I think, even as they get older and they can talk, sometimes they don't even know why they're crying. And like, look at us, we're adults, and sometimes we get upset and someone says what's wrong, and like, you don't even know how to answer that question, you know? So
It's
we're
true.
emotional human beings.
Yeah. Oh. Well, my very last question to you is, what are some of the positive ways in which becoming a mum has changed you?
So I mean, I have so much appreciation for my own mum and
Mm.
all my friends who are mums. And I was around so many people who had children, but you just don't understand until you have children for yourself. I mean, I feel like I'm more empathetic to other mums now, and I guess you could say I'm not as judgmental as I may have been beforehand, without
Yeah.
realizing, obviously. And I feel like I've also slowed down a lot since becoming a mum. Obviously, I still go out, but nowhere near as often as I did.
Yeah.
And I love being busy, don't get me wrong, but now I really enjoy quiet time and quality time with my loved ones.
Yeah.
And, in my early 20s, I did a lot for myself. I worked hard, I saved money, I did a lot of traveling overseas. I race triathlons, which is a pretty selfish sport because it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
There's so much training involved, and I was training before and after work, and I put my relationships on the back burner for that. And I guess now that I've had my baby, I've become so much more selfless, and everything I do now is with my baby and my family in mind. And
Yeah.
not but knowing that in time, we will travel with our babies and we will do things for ourselves, like exercise and spend time together child free. But I guess our babies and children will always come first, and that's something that has definitely changed for me, because I never had that appreciation before. And I now look at it, I mean, this topic has come at a good time because it's just been Mother's Day, and it made me realize that there isn't just one day of the year
Yeah.
for mums. It should be every day that we appreciate our mum.
It is.
So just thank them for what they do for us, because it's definitely not easy.
Yeah, give up your whole life for you. I think that, don't I?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you don't realize until you get older what your mum did for you or your dad did for you until you actually get older, or you have kids, or you just be able to understand it. And then I think of the times when I was like 15 or 16, and like, for me, I didn't enjoy cooking. So like, I'll cook one thing and eat it for the whole week, don't care. And then I just remember like my mum like busted her ass making like meals every single day. Like my dad telling us this shit. I'd be like, "Mum, this food shit. It tastes like shit." Why she just spent the whole day of like me and my other two like young siblings. And then when we're older, you're like, "Mum, I hate you. How dare you?" Blah blah. And I'm like, the
Oh,
audacity. What the fuck? Like I would,
I
I cringe,
know.
and
If
I've said
my
sorry.
child told me my food tasted like shit, I would be so angry.
Yeah, I cry. I just cry for hours. I feel like when my kid does it, like, oh my god. And you just
Oh,
think
you
how
definitely have so
thankless.
much more appreciation, don't you?
Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking as well, like going back to the whole like social media thing. We're talking about social media
Yeah.
before, and just made me remember, like being a mum, like, and social media, like we need to stop comparing ourselves to other mums on social media. Like social media is so toxic
It
in
is.
every aspect of your life, but also becoming a new mum. I mean, like to have the latest pram or the most aesthetic baby nursery or the latest gadgets that make your baby sleep through the night. Like social media is horrible, and it's not a great place for uplifting mums and the way they should be. I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of days ago I saw a clip that Ed Sheeran had done where he was talking about how people are using social media for the wrong reasons. And um, I believe he's actually deleted his social media now after this whole statement. But yeah, he was saying, you know, when we see a selfie of someone on social media, like it's not necessarily a perfect picture of how their life is. It's them feeling like shit about their day, and it's their way of feeling better, because people will then comment on that and say, oh, you look amazing, or
Yeah,
congratulations, you're doing so well. Like it's such a facade. It's
it
not real. It's
is.
not genuine. I mean, nobody posts photos of themselves crying, saying, you know, I'm having a really hard time right now. I mean, some people do. That's
Yeah,
great. But
but
most of social media, it's people
orchestrated
showing off what
fake.
they
Yeah.
have and how amazing their life is with their highly edited photos. And, you know, someone who's already having a crap day or is going through a really hard time looks at these photos and compares themselves to these
Yeah.
people, thinking their life is flawless and that their journey to get there has been flawless and easy. But look, I could go on about this topic, but
No, it's mad. I feel so
the moral
strongly as
is
well. It
like,
makes me sick.
yeah, social media is not the platform for raising your children. And like being a first time mum, like it can be very toxic if you don't use it in the
Yeah.
right way.
And it's easier, especially when you're a full-time mum, because you don't have, it's not like you're at an office and there's somebody like, stop looking at your phone. You literally can have your phone in your hand all day, every day. And so it's a
100%.
recipe for disaster.
And it's
It
like
is.
when, like, if you're a breastfeeding mum, like, you know, you can sit there breastfeeding and be on your phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Like that's when I catch up on replying to messages from friends that I haven't responded for like 2 or 3 days, or, you know,
Yeah.
like scrolling through social media. So you do have a lot of that time to do that, because you can't really do anything else. You can't really cook and clean while you're breastfeeding a baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that side of things, it can be very, very toxic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, we could talk about this for ages, but yeah, I feel the exact same. That I think I posted one photo for the first time. I think I posted one photo last year, but like obviously to me, COVID happened. Everything was hell. I was working a dead end job just to make money, and like pretty much had like a couple of the worst years of my life. And I posted a photo of me in like a nice dress, and someone inboxed me and said, "Holy shit, you have the very best life. I'm so jealous." And I was like, "When?" Like number one, this is bullshit. But number two, it's like, how did you gather that just from like? But yeah, and it's that perception. And I'm like, it's literally one photo of me in a dress, kind of smiling, taking a selfie. I'm like, you have no idea what the last 2 years have been from me. And obviously they're not to know, but it's like the fact that they are sitting at home thinking that in their mind about me, when that is definitely not the case. And it's the only thing I've posted in like 365 days. I was like, whoa, like
Yeah.
this is this is bad. Like it's bad. And that's it's hard to stay off, but I try to stay off. And I don't know where it's going, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like a vicious cycle sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't, I remember looking back at my Instagram, and the last photo I posted was in 2019. That doesn't mean I don't go on Instagram a lot.
Yeah.
And then like obviously all of a sudden I've had a baby, and, you know, I've put up a couple of posts. But yeah, like you get stuck in this, I guess, weird phase where you're on your phone and you're just scrolling and scrolling, and you kind of think to yourself, what the fuck
Yeah.
am I looking at? Like
Yeah.
I'm literally not doing anything. Like I need to stop.
Yeah. It is. And as you said, it
Oh.
takes you out of your own life. Anyway, I do want to keep talking that, but I'm not, because that will be a whole new podcast we can do.
100%.
Alrighty, well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today, and thank you for being so vulnerable and open. Obviously, we tried to purposely focus on the negative aspects. So yeah, motherhood is beautiful. You are obviously very happy, very supported, and very loved. But the purpose of this conversation was to steer it in that way, because not many people talk about it that way because they feel bad. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and open to have this discussion. And I really am excited to get this out because, yeah, like I said, we're getting to that age of people becoming parents and that, and just feeling so alone with no support groups, and just think it's just them, and it's really like everyone. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been nice to kind of, share my side of the story and that side of being a mother. And, it's funny because I've said this a few times now, like before having a baby, when you talk to other mums about things, like nobody ever tells you the bad things that happen. Like, of course, you don't want to scare
Mm,
people off, and people don't want to give unsolicited advice,
yeah,
but you hear about all the great things, and you don't hear about all the weird and wonderful things that happen to you when you become a parent.
yeah,
And like I remember like when Sienna was first born, and I messaged my friend and I was like, this just happened, is this normal? And she's like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. That happens to everyone when they have a baby. And I'm like, okay, why have I not heard about this before? Like there's
yeah,
so much that people don't talk about. And yeah, like it's the same. Like, I mean, obviously we had Ash's birthday on the weekend, and she had the speech when her cake came out, and she made a comment that everyone, a lot of people say to you when they see you, they're like, oh, how you going, how's your day been, what's been happening? And everyone kind of without even thinking says, yeah, I'm good, like life's good, we've been busy.
mm,
But we don't actually say, you know what, I've actually had a fucking shit week. Like
yeah,
I've had I'm going through a really hard time at the moment. Like we just don't, like you don't want to bother someone with that conversation, or you
yeah,
don't maybe you don't have the courage to say it. But sometimes just listening to other people talk about how they have been dealing with things, or the tough times they've been going through, it just kind of, it doesn't make you feel better about going through a tough time, but it makes you
yeah,
feel like you're not alone, and it's normal to feel like that.
yeah.
That's another thing, like make normalizing the fact that it's hard, and not sugarcoating it, because you just can't
It's real
sugarcoat it.
life.
It's
Yeah,
it's yeah, it is.
it's
It's real
happening.
life.
Yeah, it's not all
Yeah,
great. It's not supposed to be.
definitely. But
Oh,
yeah, 100%. So many, all the happy times, and everything else outweighs all of that, definitely. Otherwise, we wouldn't go back and have more children.
yeah.
But yeah, so rewarding, so rewarding.
Oh, bless you. All right. Thank you so much, my love. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you again for coming on. And we'll speak to you
Yeah,
soon.